Well, remember that the eclipse energy has to do primarily with energetic detoxification and blending. So, what we would say is the following. The solar power is one of energy, it is one of stimulation, it is one of light, it is one of clarity. Oftentimes, many of you consider the solar power to be representative of goodness in the universe. That is why, of course, the Christ was seen as a representative or an extension of the sun. You archetypally associate the sun, the day, the light with goodness. The night, oftentimes, the darkness, even in some instances, the moon, were regarded as negative, evil, mischievous, cunning, something that reserved caution or warranted caution. So, in your ancient times, the lunar powers were seen as these darker powers, the powers of the underworld, the lower world, if you will. For in your ancient times, the moon was correspondent with the lower portions of the body, the reproductive organs. So many of you associate the moon with lower self, the sun with higher self. Now, when we say your ancient cultures saw these things in these ways, interpreted them in these ways, that doesn't mean it's just relevant to that culture. Remember, archetypes are, in a sense, hardwired. And what does that mean? It means the themes, the interpretation that a culture may use to understand something oftentimes will be a fractal of a much greater power or a much greater truth that represents the nature of whatever it is that's being explored or discussed or examined. So these archetypes have relevance. That's not to say the sun is good and the moon is bad, but what it does mean is the sun represents the light, the parts of yourself that are warm, the parts of yourself that are pleasing, the parts of yourself that are loving, but also the parts of the self that may be a little full of themselves, pride. Yes, that is the vice of the sun, because even something seen as ultimately good, of course, will still cast a shadow. The moon, in many ways, as we had said, represents the lower self, the lower worlds, but it also has a strong connection to the feminine, the occult, the mysterious. It is also a symbol for change. The moon, classically speaking, is the fastest of the 7 classical planets. It's in a different house just about every day, astrologically speaking. So, when the moon and the sun overlap in this manner, it's a blending of these qualities. These two opposites are beginning to merge. Now, if you are regularly practicing, if you are a spiritual devotee, that doesn't mean you're worshiping an entity. It means you're diligently working on your energy each day. You're accessing higher levels each day. You're purifying what you would consider to be your karma, if you will, each day. If this is your type of focus, and you have these types of, you could say, practices, the eclipse time is an ideal time to practice because that lunar quality within you has already been greatly purified. As the eclipse takes place in the sky, energetically, it's like the top and bottom of your body are coming together and are also overlapping. This overlap will usually take place within the heart. So the energies from the upper centers descend down, the energies from the lower centers ascend upwardly, and they meet in the middle. So energetically, this is what's taking place within the human body. Higher and lower are interacting. They're overlapping. So you could use this blending of opposites as a type of portal. As you know, when you combine man and woman opposites together, a portal is open, a new life can emerge. The same is the case psychically within your body. So the same possibility exists during the eclipse. So any alchemical practice, inner alchemy practices, these will benefit you tremendously. Now, if you're a person who's not working on themselves, if you're a person who is sort of passively moving through life, if you're a person who has not really explored or purified themselves of negative energies, the eclipse may actually be more challenging because it's going to cause you to interact with those shadow dimensions. But if the shadow has not been cleaned, then it might feel a little bit messy. It might feel a little bit sticky. It might feel a little uncomfortable. It might feel a little strange. It might feel a little scary. So keep in mind that the nature of the eclipse, how it affects a person, depends on their level of spiritual practice ultimately and their relationship with their own negativity. If the relationship with the negativity is positive, negativity is kept in check, it is used in a positive way rather than in a destructive way. If these types of things are present, that eclipse will be a portal. And for all beings, just like we said before, it acts as a portal, it acts as a timeline split. So, no matter what happens during the eclipse, you, on a personal level, and your society, on a collective level, will jump to different timelines, different realities. You might not notice it's happening until it has already passed, but nonetheless, that is occurring. So, how you move through that portal, again, will determine on your relationship with positivity and negativity, and your relationship with the sun and the moon, nature themselves. The more dialed in you are to these systems, the more synchronized you'll be with the portal, the more conscious you can then be with how you use it. So, in terms of meditational practices, we would advise do a practice that involves you, do a visualization that involves you, do an exercise that involves you in traveling through some type of portal to a reality you would like to shift to. And when you have finished the exercise, imagine that you have returned to your body, integrating the energies of the journey into you before you open your eyes. But go through some type of astral projective experience. See a doorway open up before you. Craft it in a way that is very intentional, that represents the types of effects you're looking to introduce. Move through that doorway, move through that pathway into a world that represents the types of worlds you'd like to create and experience. Have the interactions with the beings there that represent the types of experiences you're looking to create in your physical life. Make it as visceral, as real as possible. And meet the spiritual guardians of this world you're calling forth and ask them how you can more easily birth this world into your own experience. Ask them, what are the steps? What are the actions? What are the choices I need to make and need to let go of in order to birth this reality? And when you return to your body, diligently apply the information, and you'll see that world begin to manifest. So, if the spiritual practice for you is more minimal, astral projection, alchemy, these things are really outside of what you usually pay attention to. If that's the case, use the eclipse to detoxify, to release, to let go. There are certain practices. The sacred 6 healing sounds are oftentimes used to expel this energy and to change the frequency of the body. Something like that could be used. Something like the meditational practice we led many of you through, the Earth's womb, that is another very appropriate practice to use on an eclipse day. Any type of thing where you are cleansing and you're detoxifying will support you on an eclipse day. Ideally, no matter what your level of practice is, the eclipse is best experienced in a fasted state with no food. Because again, it's a portal, it's a doorway. If you are weighed down into a specific version of Earth through food, it's going to make it challenging to jump to another one because an attachment has been made. But when you are lighter in nature, you can easily make these shifts.